Raging floodwaters from Crooked Creek swept through Harrison's downtown in the early morning hours of Sunday, May 7, 1961, taking 4 lives and causing what the late Daily Times publisher J.E. Dunlap once called Harrison's worst catastrophe since the birth of the city 85 years earlier on March 1, 1876. In the disaster that the Army Corps of Engineers later identified as a 100-year flood, property damage exceeded $5.4 million and 80% of Harrison's business district was destroyed. In the middle of Saturday night, May 6th, Ruth Willis, who lived on Crooked Creek 3 miles upstream from Harrison, called the Harrison Fire Department and told them the creek was rising rapidly and would probably overflow the levee. Fire Chief Merle Roark and the firemen Chloe Wagner and Victor Jarrett called about 50 local business people, urging them to hurry to their businesses and get their stock off the floor because they were expecting Crooked Creek to flood. At 1 a.m., Harrison's tornado sirens blared to warn residents of the rising creek. Officials said 5 1/2 inches of rain fell between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m., according to a story Dunlap wrote for the Gazette State News Services. Many merchants were in the downtown area trying to move merchandise and were trapped when the wall of water hits at 3:30 a.m., he wrote. The wall of water was reportedly 12 to 14 feet high. The fire department and the city hall next to the creek were among the first to be flooded. The southern and eastern sides of the square, about 2 blocks from the creek, were hit hardest. Dunlap reported that water rose to a depth of 12 feet on the south side of the square. The first wave of the water swept through the city hall, fire station, city police department, and city offices, as well as the First Presbyterian Church just across the street to the east. The main thrust of the wall of water then smacked the commercial hotel at the corner of Spring and Stevenson and gushed eastward, taking in its path vehicles as it washed out goods and fixtures from store buildings. Floodwaters destroyed the 30-year-old brick high school agricultural building just north of Goblin Stadium. The roof of that building, along with school buses that were washed into the creek, formed a dam against the Willow Creek Bridge over Crooked Creek. With the dam-like structure against the bridge, the water had no place to go but over the levee near the intersection of Spring and Central, where a memorial stands today. Those who died in the flood were Troy Paul, 64, Sherman Smith, 55, J.C. McCutcheon, 77, and his wife, 74. The McCutcheon's home near Goblin Stadium disappeared after the flood, and Mrs. McCutcheon's body wasn't found until a week later, partially buried in debris 2 miles downstream from where her home had been. A small service station building was washed a block and a half away and ended up on the courthouse lawn. 30 homes along the creek were either swept away or moved from their foundations. Most of the residents had already been evacuated. There were numerous stories of citizens helping each other and brave rescues. As daybreak broke through the clouds of the departing storm, residents couldn't believe what they saw or begin to comprehend what had happened. 3/4 of the square had been ravaged by the floodwaters, as had all business houses along Central and Stevenson Avenues to the eastern edge of the city, as well as all the cross streets in between. A total of 331 buildings were destroyed or damaged, according to Red Cross figures reported by the Daily Times. And 109 families were affected by the flood. More than 100 automobiles were tossed around like matchsticks, with some of them crashing into buildings. Both the Chevrolet and Rambler dealers lost most of their vehicles. Debris was lodged in trees downtown, some of it on branches as high as 12 feet in the air. Up to 4 inches of mud were left in some places. Utility services were knocked out, telephone service was meager, and the city water and sewage systems were condemned by the state health department. There was a critical lack of drinking water, and nearby towns sent in truckloads of well water that was distributed free from several locations around town. Local doctors ordered mass inoculations against typhoid, and more than 6,000 residents received the shots. No known cases of typhoid ever developed. The Harrison High School juniors and seniors canceled their prom and donated the money they had raised toward it, about $500, to local relief funds. Harrison schools were closed for the rest of the term. And Harrison, Arkansas was a town that refused to die.